My name is Alex Vélez, and you may know me as a platinum recording artist. But beyond that, I'm a devoted Christian with a pretty controversial point of view. Join me as we discuss faith, music, and current events. This is the Rebels and Saints podcast. The opinions and doctrines expressed on this podcast are specific to the host and guests. They do not reflect the views and opinions of any religious institution. What's going on, my people? Welcome to another episode of the Rebels and Saints podcast. We got a special guest here, Shopé.
Yeah. What's going on,
man?
Bro?
Amazing, man. Amazing. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been like two years?
Yeah, bro.
Pre-pandemic?
Yeah. So true.
Since we connected.
But even before that, man, I remember the first time I saw you, I was like, yo, this guy has something, man. He has something special, super talented, stage presence.
Thank you,
amazing.
Man. Appreciate it.
Well, one of the best I've seen. And the sound, too. Yeah, you know, and you're very... I compare you to T.I. Funny enough, I was talking to my wife in the sense of like how eloquent you are with your words. I'm like, oh, this guy, you know.
Speaking expeditiously.
There you go, bro.
Yeah,
you know what
man.
I mean? Those words, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but
yeah. No, I figured I paid a lot of money to get this degree, and might as well find a way to use it.
Oh,
Even
yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm not working in that field.
Yeah.
I have the language.
Oh yeah, because you were a teacher, right?
Yeah, so I have a teaching certification. I got 2 bachelors actually, honors bachelors of science because I was supposed to become a doctor. And I also have a bachelor of education, so I can actually teach and communicate high school and kids like that. Yeah.
Amazing, bro.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. So basically, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you today, which is so important to my heart, and I know it's to yours as well, is the whole Christian music industry.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know,
let's jump into it.
Yeah, bro, because that's actually where I first met you. I remember we went to an event. An artist came from the States, and I remember you were one of the opening acts, and I remember seeing you, and I'm like, man, this guy. At that point in my life, I was already out of the whole Christian music industry scene because I don't even know if you knew, but I started as a Christian artist.
You mentioned it briefly during that meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of had an idea, but I knew you weren't really in that space anymore at that time.
Yeah. So at that point, when I saw you, I'm like, man, this guy has so much potential to be so much more than a quote unquote Christian artist. And the reason why I had said that was because I had already gone through that whole process myself. I want to say maybe since the age of 16 to 25, I was a Christian artist. I toured Latin America, ministering in different churches, and I did everything.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out, 23, 24, with $0 in my name. Because I was waiting for offerings, you know what I mean? And
you were doing ministry.
Yeah, I was doing ministry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just one of the factors, many factors. But I remember seeing you that day, and I'm like, man, I would love to have a conversation with this guy, just to let him know, like, hey, bro, there's much more, man,
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have listened to you at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
I probably wouldn't have listened to you at that time.
Yeah,
but
it's
funny
man,
how life works.
Yeah, bro, but it's amazing to see where you're at now. You know what I mean? The faith hasn't changed. If anything, it got stronger.
By God's grace.
Same with myself. The only thing that has changed is the platform.
Absolutely.
Which is a greater platform.
I think so.
And we are I guess we are the undercover agents. Get what I'm saying? We're the splinter cells. Yeah.
I get exactly
and it's a beautiful place to be at.
I think so.
So I saw recently something you had posted about the Christian industry, and I found it amazing. I'm like, oh, man, finally somebody else that can speak on that, because it's very hard to find people that are very transparent in that area.
Yeah.
Because
and are level-headed too.
Yeah. Because everybody will tell you like, oh yeah, we get it. We're doing ministry. We're doing God's work. We get it. But we also live in the real world.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, we gotta understand that people do treat it as a business, and there is no difference in my mind. There is no difference between the Christian industry as the quote unquote secular industry.
None. And I think you also have we have that extra perspective because we've actually been in it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen the machine that runs it.
Yeah.
I think the average listener, the average viewer, they just see the final product. They see the music, the experience, but they don't realize just how much of getting that to them in that form is so non-religious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So non-Christian.
Yeah.
And I mean that in two ways. Some of it is actually like shady, and this is actually not Christian behavior.
Yeah.
And some of it isn't like not immoral, but just kind of like neutral. You get what I'm saying? Like there's an actual business infrastructure to this thing.
Yeah.
And not everything is as spiritual, as vertical, as holy and sanctified as the image
definitely
presents.
Definitely.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, shout out to you as well, because you've done like amazing things over the last
thank you, man.
number of years. And I know that even for me, I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you to have a coffee, and I think we met at Square One. Right?
Starbucks Square One.
Starbucks Square One. So this was when I was in the process of kind of like transitioning out of that. And I'm like, yo, Alex, this guy's been doing it for a while, and he's actually killing it too. Let me pick his brain, because I think he's the kind of person who I want as a friend in my corner, who is serious with his faith, with his belief, but is finding a way by God's grace to somehow maneuver in this space. You know what I'm saying? So I respect you as much. I respect you a lot, which is why I reached out to you, because I'm like, from the jump, as I'm starting to move in these waters, I want to have those people. So you're one of those people I reached out to. I think Shad was another guy who I reached out to.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I should put it out there like that, but anyways,
I was like, okay, I didn't know that.
There are a couple of people, a couple of splinter cells.
Splinter cells.
You know what I'm saying? Who are here. We know what we believe. We're carrying ourselves in a certain kind of way, but we're able to contextualize the message, or just rather have the message, have our beliefs influence just how we carry ourselves and what we do in the industry. Definitely. And I think that's incredibly powerful and necessary. You feel me?
I love it. I think exactly what you said. I think it's necessary, especially nowadays. You know, the majority of conversations I've had within the quote unquote, again, secular industry with these big songwriters and producers that have, you know, produced for Beyonce, Jay-Z, and all this stuff, they all started within the church. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, the conversations I've had with them, they're like, yeah, you know, but they didn't accept us for what we were trying to do.
Right.
They, you know, they all had the same mentality of like, you know what? We're going to bring God's kingdom this way. You know, we are going to transform lives this way.
Right.
You know, and the church didn't understand that. And because of that, you know, they were criticized and like cast it out type of situation.
Yeah. Or a lot of them, unfortunately, were connected to like not healthy churches. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of major singers and songwriters, they come up in the church, and unfortunately their experience of Christianity, I mean, at the end of the day, Christianity has a set of beliefs and values and things that we hold dear. You know what I'm saying? And not everybody's going to agree with that. Like, that's just, there's some things we can't escape.
Yeah.
That said, I think even in the manner in which you go about with these beliefs that you have, there's a way you can carry yourself that still conveys love and support and engaging people. And there's another way you can carry it that's much more judgmental, much more heavy-handed, much more rules-based and strict. You know what I'm saying? That's much more rules-based, that actually doesn't work to endear the person or flesh out the idea. It's just like, no, you can't do this. This is what you do. And that doesn't work to heal anyone. You get what I'm saying? And so I believe, unfortunately, a lot of the industry professionals, a lot of our peers are coming from this kind of really overly structured, overly regimented, overly dogmatic, overly legalistic expressions of the faith that causes them to just like pull away from the whole thing as a whole and say, you know what? Like, yo, yes, I started here. Yes, I got my vocal chops here. This was training camp.
It was,
But now I'm done with this. And they just throw the baby out with the bathwater because their experience of it was a bastardized version of what the scriptures actually say. Like, there's a way, right, to live out this Christian faith with even the teachings that are hard to stomach, but there's a way to live that out in a way that is honest, that is authentic, that sympathizes with the people who don't necessarily agree. Because I always say this, like, my job is not to convert anyone. That's not my job, right? My job is to live within my convictions. And even built into our faith is an understanding that not everybody is going to believe that. And that is for God to judge. My job is to love them. My job is to care for them, and my job is to let God do what he's going to do with them. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing is this. I'm so sorry. I'm kind of going off.
Nah, go. I love it. I love it.
The thing is this, right? Like, you cannot, and this is one of the things that I think we've really messed up on. Like, you cannot hold non-Christians to Christian standards. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't. Right? If you look in the Bible, it specifically says, don't judge the world. It says you're supposed to judge each other within the church. And I even that kind of like requires more explanation. But basically, if somebody never claimed to be a Christian, why in the world are you going to hold them to a Christian standard? You should be doing this. Why should they be? Yes, they should, or we would like them to, but they never said they were a part of our camp. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of churches have taken this defensive position against people who never really claimed to be part of the squad.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work to endear them. That doesn't work to draw them in. It just works to make them the enemy. And that's not what we're supposed to do.
Oh, man. I love that, man. I love that. A question for you. When was the moment where you said, you know what, I think I got to make this move? Or what was your mind frame? You know what I mean? Like, what were you thinking of in that moment?
I think it was a gradual. I can point to the definitive project that marked, okay, this is my deviation.
Yeah.
But getting to that point was a process over many years. So the project that I believe marked that was my 2018 album XXY. Mm-hmm. That was the time I said I'm going to make a project that just is a love project.
I remember I went to the CD release of that one.
Yes, exactly.
It was fire too.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. And incidentally, like that project did really well as well. But I remember that was a project in which I set out to say, I'm going to make a project that's just more love and romance and R&B. And I'm not going to try to Christianize the message.
Yeah.
Like I was already in that mind frame where my mission, and I think this was the decisive difference.
Yeah.
Before, my mission going into projects was, I want to preach the gospel so that somebody can be saved through this music.
Yeah.
That album that's not what I'm trying to do. I want to explore love and emotion and romance and R&B, the ups and the downs of it. And I'm not trying to save anyone. I just want to explore it based on how I understand these things. And how I understand these things is obviously influenced by my faith and my experience. But that was the project that I believe, okay, this is the direction I'm going in now. Now, the process of getting there was like, it was over many years. And it was I can't think of one single thing that resulted in it. Yeah. It was more so like a combination of different things. There was the fact that I was rediscovering my cultural heritage because I was born in Nigeria and I immigrated here. Yeah. And for the first 10 years maybe of being here, I kind of ignored my Nigerian side. I just very quickly disseminated into becoming a Toronto man and just like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm in North America now. This is what I do. And I kind of ignored my African heritage, but through a series of different things, that started to become more important to me. And so I started thinking about it more, and I started speaking more to my parents, and I started looking back at old photos. And then I traveled to Nigeria for my brother's wedding. And being in the country was like, oh my gosh, like so much of this feels like natural. Like it's hard to explain. Wow. Like when you haven't been somewhere, it's like,
it's in you.
It was here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was here because I was 11 years old when I left. So I was young, but not super young. I still remember. I have a strong connection to the country. And I got there and I was like, yeah, sure. Some things were a culture shock because I hadn't been there for a while. But for the most part, I was like, I remember this. I know this. I love this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh my gosh, like my way of thinking through my identity as a person has to change. Yeah. Because again, I left Nigeria, assimilated here, became a North American, a Canadian. Yeah. And then I became a Canadian Christian. A Canadian Christian, and my entire mentality when I first came to the faith was like, yo, I am here and my job wherever I am is to save somebody from their sins. Bro. For real.
Yeah, of course.
That was my mentality, bro.
Yeah.
And that was because of the music I was listening to. That was because of some of the music, not all of it. That was because of the church I was in at the time. That was because of the people I was surrounding myself. So my identity at that time was rooted in the fact that I am here on this earth, that in every single situation, I have to save some souls. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And then life starts happening. You know what I'm saying? I date. I'm like, oh, well, this is a new category of life that I haven't really experienced too much. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my heart was broken. Okay, Jesus, but damn, this hurts. Like, like how do I make sense of this? And like, I'm going to Nigeria. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that there's this big part of my African heritage. What does that mean? Like, and all of a sudden, my conception of my self-identity begins to unravel, begins to shift, begins to be augmented. But one thing I know, and this is by God's grace and lens, that through all this process, the faith, the core of the faith was important to me. And I'm like, so help me God, like, I want to explore, but I don't want to get lost. I don't want you to lose me. I don't want to lose you, right? Because a lot of people, unfortunately, deconstruct themselves out of the faith.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I didn't want that to be me, because I felt, and I still feel as though I had found the truest thing that my heart and my soul can cling to. But it was through this process of, and then I had my son, and like, oh my gosh, now I got to think through what it means to be a father, and the fact that, like, if I don't tell my son about Nigeria, like, again, like, I keep going back to Nigeria because like that cultural rediscovery for me was such a big part.
Yes.
A big part of this shift, which is why my music is also kind of shifted as well. A lot of it I can trace back to beginning to think through, who am I in this world, and realizing that a big part of my identity is rooted back in my culture and my heritage. And it was a journey through over a series of years, experiencing those things internally. Yeah. But then also witnessing some of the external stuff in the industry.
Yeah.
How the industry operates. Yeah. Right. And the shady things, the nepotism, the preference given to certain people, how it's not really based on merit or based on talent. It's just based on who knows. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All of these different things kind of combined in 2018 saying, and so the journey began in like 2013. 2018 was when I made that decision. You know what? I'm not going to try to make a Christian album. Yeah. I'm not trying to save anybody with this album. I'm trying to be honest. And if this heals somebody. Yeah. On one level, on the basis of processing romance and hurt and heartbreak, great. And if this also helps somebody begin to see like, oh, maybe there's more, because of even the way he processes heartbreak isn't just F you and F on my exes. Yeah. If that can get somebody questioning like, yo, what is this guy's background? Then I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was I agree exactly with what you say. It's not our job. And I think that was part of the process, my process, was understanding it is not my job to, quote unquote, go save somebody with my music. You know, I understood that my job was to, quote unquote, showcase God's love through conversation and through my person. Absolutely. You know, like on the one-on-one conversations behind the scenes with the producers, with the songwriters, you know, with the TV hosts, you know, and everything like that. With those one-on-one connections. And then my job is to make people question what makes this guy different, you know, and have them ask me, you know, like, hey, you know, what makes you different? Once that conversation starts, that's when I can slip that in, you know what I mean? And be like, oh yeah, it's all God, you know, like, you know, I walk this way, I walk that way, boom, boom, boom. And funny enough, when I got into I guess, the fullness of my secular career, or the height of my secular career, I guess, one of the conversations I had with God was, one of the things I told him, like, God, I don't want to be a Bible thumper. I don't want to have to, like, you know, make people swallow the word and show them. No. I said, I'm like, I am not going to say I'm Christian or this. I said, but one thing I promise you, if they bring up the subject about you, I'm going to preach, you know.
I'm not denying you.
You know what I mean?
By your grace.
And bro, since that moment, no lie, I want to say maybe 90% of the interviews I've had, that's crazy. 90% of the conversations I've had, they have brought up God.
They brought it up, yeah.
You know,
because there's the Bible calls it the aroma of Christ. Like that's what the Bible calls it. It's, there's just the way you carry yourself. There's a way you speak that you're immediately distinct. Wow. Even if you're not out here trying to wear your Jesus tee or have your Jesus mug. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the Bible calls it the aroma of Christ. Yeah. And it's distinct from the world's aroma, and so they're going to pick up on it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's powerful, bro.
No, and the thing is with me, so I think it was the same thing, gradually. I made that decision gradually, but I knew since I was like 15, 14 years old that I was meant to do, quote unquote, non-gospel music.
Secular music.
You know, I knew it. Like, I can trace back to the moment. It was one of my first spiritual encounters where I feel like the Holy Spirit told me, hey, listen, you're not meant for within the four walls of the church. Right. But in my mind, it didn't fit. I'm like 14, 15 years old. You know what I mean? I had just been told, I had just performed at my local church a hip hop song.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, people got up and said, that music's from the devil. You know what I mean? And me being heartbroken, 14, 15, getting home, curling up into a ball into the bathroom.
Wow.
And just being like, God, I don't understand.
Wow.
And that was my first spiritual encounter with God, where he just told me, you were not meant for the four walls of the church. And you will face this.
That's so crazy.
You know?
Yeah, that's so crazy, because I started thinking I was meant for the walls of the church. Like
wow.
And I think it just speaks to just our journeys are different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And God works with all of us in different ways, and he has different missions for different people. Like I think it was not partially, I think a lot because of the music that I found very helpful when I first got saved. Like I came to faith at 14, and then I stumbled on Christian hip hop, and bro,
the T-Bones, the cross movements,
exactly, the Reach Records, the Modes, all those guys, and for all of the good that it did for me, and I try not to be the guy who just completely poops on everything.
No, of course, definitely not. Yeah.
For all of the good that it did for me, it also really limited my. And someone can argue that it had to happen in order to make you who you are now. Sure, cool, that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? But I can also point very specific ways to about how being entrenched in that, for all of the good that it did for me, kind of set me back in other things as well. Right? And in God's will, that's what he wanted to happen. Yeah. Amen. He's gonna make sense of it all for me. But I came in thinking like, yo, this is what my gift is for. Yeah. And this is what is going to help the church and heal the world. Yeah. And this is and again, I think there's room for that. And I think that's what certain people are called to. But I legit thought that's what I was called to. Yeah.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, even
at the time,
for me, 14, 15, hearing that I wasn't meant for the four walls, I thought something else. So between that age, 15 to, like years. I said, 20 something, whatever 11 years. I said, let me help God out. This is what he meant. Right. And I did Christian music. I did Christian hip hop, Christian reggaeton, and I did it. You know what I mean? But along that way, I saw how corrupt the Christian industry was. I remember like as if it was yesterday. There was this huge event that happens in Miami. I think it still happens nowadays, called Expoli, where all these ministries go. Yeah. Think of like Comic-Con or something like that, where it's like all these Christian media goes, Latin media goes. And that's where people go to promote their books, the Christian books. They go to promote their albums. So I remember me and my boy, the guy I used to sing with, and a couple of our friends, we put on our backpacks. We walked in, bought our tickets. We had our albums, our demos. And we were like, man, we're next up. We're going to go give our demos to all these radio stations and media. Yeah. Bro, I remember pulling up, giving demos to these people. They'd be like, who are you? They're just like, okay, we don't know you. Yeah. Or people be like, oh, yeah, thank you. Receive it. As soon as we turned to right, into the trash. Yeah. And that was the first time I remember seeing like the big
business side of it.
Yeah, like I saw these big Christian names. Right. Walking with security and nobody could touch them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they were like people like it looked like they were, One Direction, you know what I mean? And then people were like trying to touch Justin Bieber and the bodyguards pushing them away and I'm like, "Whoa." Like
I thought this was all about.
Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing is like looking at it through mature lens now, like I get it.
Yeah, I know exactly. Now you understand. Celebrities. Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. Influence. You know what I mean? And it's okay, but it's just I think what's important is to know the distinction in the sense of like business wise. Exactly. Ultimately, whether you want to call it Christian music or secular music, it's a business. It's a business. You know what I mean? And as soon as people
sorry to cut you off.
No.
What a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the people who are at the top of these labels are not Christians. Yeah. They're just good business people.
Yeah, of course.
And for them, it's a product.
It's another, exactly.
It's a product.
Exactly. It's another market.
Right? I'm going to sell chewing gum to people who like chewing gums. Who like chewing gum. I'm going to sell batteries to people who need batteries. Yeah. I'm going to sell Christian music to people who like Christian music. And it is a product. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which is why a lot of it sounds very similar. Because there's an assembly line. And in very much the same. And we can make the same argument about the mainstream industry.
Oh yeah.
But guess what? The mainstream industry accepts it.
Yeah, exactly, and they're transparent about it.
They're transparent about it.
We know it.
There's a production line of songwriters who churn out all of these. You want top 40? You want reggaeton? What you want? You want underground? You want?
Yeah.
Celebrity, PR, radio machine, out to the market.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's the Christian industry that pretends this doesn't exist and pretend it's all like we're just all driven by a love for the Lord and wanted to see the world saved. Like, bro, no, it's a money-making machine.
Yeah.
And the product is the Christian message.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And that part is so veiled from the average Christian listener that they automatically think, here is good, here is holy, that stuff is evil. And you don't realize that, bro, it's the same tap that's giving that and giving this. They're just selling you a product.
Yeah, man. And I think, and it's so heartbreaking when you first realize that,
you're like,
oh man. It was so heartbreaking for me when I started, when that was a defining moment.
Yeah.
Although I still, quote unquote, tried to continue in the Christian faith, my eyes were open, and you can't deny it anymore. No. You know, like once you see that side, you're like, there's no denying this.
I have seen, let me tell you one of the corrupt things I have seen like close to me. So there's a label, they have their main roster of artists, and then they open up like label services for other indie artists who they kind of like want to make some money off of, help out a little bit, but don't necessarily want to sign them. Like you get business, right?
Yeah.
One of the artists that they're offering label services to, you kind of think about it as like D1, D2. Like your main roster, that's your D1, right?
Yeah.
Label services will throw some stuff at you. What happens when one of their D2 roster label services, his song starts outperforming? What do? They pull it back.
Shelf them.
And I'm like, bro, like I thought this was and that was one of those additional things I was like, damn, like you guys really are on a business take.
It's a business,
And I get it now because I'm like, if you've invested how many hundreds of thousands of dollars into this guy, you're like, yo, I got to get a recoup on this guy.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But this other guy whose music is actually performing better.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you could keep promoting that, but no. Because it hurts the image, and now your D1 is outperforming the guy.
Yeah.
Bro, I saw that, and I was like, that was another one of those things that I was like,
wow. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's so demoralizing when you discover just how much of it is entrenched.
And when you see that, you're like, man, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And
why am I here?
Exactly.
If it's the same on
if it's
both
the same,
sides,
exactly.
Why am I here?
And that's when your eyes start opening, right? When you're like, wait. If I've been trying to, because let's be real, to a certain point, it's like if I've been trying to prove myself worthy,
right,
to this community, but realistically, this community is treating this as a business. You know, and the calling realistically is to bring the outside world in. What am I really doing here? You know, and that was one of the moments where I'm like, okay, I gotta analyze. You know, where my head's at, what am I doing? And then I just started reshifting myself, you know, and everything I was doing. And coincidentally enough, when I decided to give up on music as a whole, I gave up on Christian music, secular music. I just started doing it as a hobby. And it was at that moment I remember that I was working at a technology company, making their videos and animation. I got into the elevator after one day of work, and it was life-changing, bro. I get in the elevator, and it was a genuine like sigh of relief. I had just recently been married. You know, we had bought our first condo, our first property. Life was good. I mean, life is good. But I remember being in that elevator, and I told God, I'm like, man, thank you, Lord. Thank you for the blessings you have poured out on my life. Thank you for everything you've done. And I said specifically, if the music stuff never happens, I am perfectly fine with that. And it's as if that was the light switch. It's as if that's what God needed. It's like, okay. And it was as if God said, now let me do me. Don't try to decipher what I told you when you were young. Don't try to make sense of it. Just do your thing. You know what I mean? And one of the guys that I had met when I started in my ministry at 18 years old, that I had performed in a church in Miami. He had told me, he's like, he wanted to be my manager back then doing Christian music. Didn't happen. Fast forward 10 years later, he was in Toronto for the Junos, you know, because he was one of the managers of the guys that wrote Call Me Maybe from Carly Rae Jepsen. So he was I messaged him, I DM'd him on Instagram, like, yo, let's chill. And we started chilling and everything. He's like, yo, you still making music? At that point, I was just doing it as a hobby.
Yeah, yeah.
I showed him Dancing Kizomba, and I showed him the other songs. And then he told me, he's like, bro, what are you doing with your life? You're supposed to be an artist. And I remember saying, I'm like, yeah, I tried it, but, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, by the way, what are you doing here? He's like, I got hired to be one of the head A&Rs at Universal Music, and I'm supposed to develop international acts, and I think you're exactly what they're looking for. And that happened in a course of maybe 3 weeks from that prayer that I did in that elevator.
Yeah.
And then less than 2 months, boom, 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 snowball effect. Everything started happening like crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at that moment, you know what I mean? Everything just made sense. And my heart was healed at that point where I could care less what the community thought. Because at that moment, when I was trying to do Christian music, the churches closed their doors on us because we were doing reggaeton and Latin. It wasn't accepted in the Christian church at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were opening up for these big secular artists at that moment as Christian artists.
That's crazy.
So when
like if that isn't powerful, like, bro, I don't know. Like, church, what are you doing? Like, this is literally what we're called to do, what we're supposed to do. So, anyway, sorry.
And then from there, so then by the time I got signed and I was doing quote unquote secular artists, I would hear from people, oh, this guy joined the Illuminati, oh, this guy,
Bro, I don't know how stupid that is, bro. Like,
this guy sold his soul to the devil.
Bro,
like I was hearing these comments from like people I grew up in church with. Get what I'm saying?
But that's that hyper religiosity I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Bro, it's so toxic and it doesn't do anyone any good.
But you know what? I'm glad that I had all that because by the time I got signed and the music was moving, bro, I could care less. You know what I mean? Because it's like if I got rejected by the Pharisees when I was doing this,
preach it.
Why does it matter right now that I'm not doing what they want me to do?
Because you were getting rejected anyways.
Yeah. And if in the end, what really matters is by your fruits you will be known, let's look at the fruit.
Right.
Yeah. And at that point, it was life-changing because I felt I was way more spiritually mature that I could accept things and reject other things, So when I would hear the criticism from within church or anything like that, rejection, you know what I mean? I would reject that. I'd be like, okay, God, that's not from you, And so it was just a healthy relationship. I built that healthy relationship with God at that point, I think the purest form where it wasn't driven by what my community would think, but it was just, what do you think about this God?
What do you want me to do? Yeah, absolutely. No, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I think it's very telling that it's when you were ready to sort of like let it go and let go of expectations or restrictions or even like your own personal pursuits or whatnot. It was ultimately just a position of like, you know what, Lord, like, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
What do you want to do? And I'll do that.
And bro, I'll tell you this much. It didn't get easier by no means necessary. I was thrown into the lions then, right?
Sure.
Because I remember at that point, because I was mentally and spiritually in a position in my life where I didn't need the fame. I didn't need the acclamation. I was literally like walking in the doors God was opening. So because of that, I remember as soon as I got into the system, bro, the things I saw and I faced were scary.
Sheesh.
Yeah. I remember one of the first meetings I did. I went to LA, and I was supposed to sign like a pub deal, and the meeting I had in that pub deal, the enemy was like every corner. I remember sitting in that meeting, and I could see the eyes from the corner, from my corner. I could see them staring at me. These big execs.
Yeah.
And they're like, let me play you this, like they greeted me, hey, what's going on? Multi-billion-dollar company. You show up. And they greeted me, take me to the office. Let me show you a few projects we're working on that I think you can work with.
Jeez.
And I'm like, okay, cool. And I sit down and they play me this music video of this artist. And bro, the music video itself. Listen to this, bro. It gets to the point where the music video ends with a little girl floating on top of a satanic star and people praying around her.
Whoa.
And they are looking from the corner of their eye what my reaction is going to be.
Yeah.
Imagine being a Christian guy being thrown into that. right away.
Yeah.
And knowing that if I answer the right thing, in my mind, I'm saying if I answer the right way or if I act accordingly, I'm gonna be a millionaire.
You're gonna be good like that.
You know what I mean?
Like that.
So then, but at that moment, like, you know, it all kicks in and you're like, no, remember why you're here.
And how you got here.
And how you got here. So at that moment, okay, cool. You know, so what'd you think, Alex? Very interesting. Wow, very creative way of putting it.
Yeah, you
left that meeting. You know what I mean? Nothing
like,
happened.
Yeah.
Or then after being thrown into of like, you know, I remember with the whole label, and I said, I'm like, one thing I'm not gonna do as an artist, I am not gonna showcase booty shaking. I'm not gonna be one of these guys that's gonna use sex to sell. Yeah, no worries. No. I'm Christian too. No. Don't worry, I got your back.
Yeah.
We show up to the first music video, bro. Thongs and butts everywhere, bro.
Flying everywhere.
Yeah, me and my wife show up and we're like, yo, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, don't worry, it's all in the editing. None of this is gonna show. I'm part of your team. I'm a Christian too. You know, I'm having people tell me that.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the video edit after, and that was another defining moment as a Christian.
Were you
in that area? And I remember telling the team at that moment, guys, this is not what I got into this industry for. If this video releases, you can take your contract. I'm out. And I remember them getting up in arms and be like,
of course,
bro, this is the dream everybody wishes, you know, this is what people work for. And I remember saying, well, that's not me.
That's
and powerful. I walked out and I said, and then I turned back. I remember I turned back and I said, and by the way, you know why this video is not going to see the light of day? Because God put me here and he's not going to allow it. I told these people that, you know, some people are quote unquote on my team and then other people have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Bro, I remember getting home with my wife. We cried our eyes out.
Of course, because you're like,
we took a like 6-hour drive and we just started praying. We're like, God, what's going on? You know, is this really from you?
Yeah.
You know, nah. And we started having that conversation. 2 days later, we got a call. Hey, Alex, we got to record the video again. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Well, what happened? Yeah, the label says it has nothing to do with the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's situations.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about?
My God is the same God in the Christian industry, in the secular industry. Wherever I go, my God has my back.
And I think it's understanding like that is a reality. And I love the fact that you told the story. I love the fact that you're open and you're transparent about that. Because what you and I are not saying is like, yo, the mainstream ministry is where it's at. And like,
no.
It's freer than the Christian industry.
And it's not for everybody.
It's not that part. You know what I'm saying? And I love that transparency because it's the balance of both. It's saying like, listen, there's a lot of restrictiveness and a lot of unnecessary religiosity in the Christian industry, right? And not everybody is called to the Christian industry. That said, not everybody is called to the mainstream industry, right? Yeah. Because that has its own set of challenges, right? And you and I are not afraid. We're not ashamed to say like, bro, listen, we're not out here just trying to turn away Christianity and like dunk on the church and no, like, and we're not just out here like, yo, we out here doing our thing. Like, no, bro, like we have by God's grace a real faith. Like we have a real faith. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're just trying to figure out a way to like, how do we, as best as we can, be truthful and faithful to what God has called us to do, and understand that specifically for us, God has called us to this place,
to this platform,
and that requires certain kind of skill. That requires a certain kind of maneuvering. It's not going to be easy, but it's still better than where we were. Not because this is better, but because it's what we're called to.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's about calling.
It's about calling.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I love the fact that you would share that because it's true. Like, the mainstream industry has its own pitfalls. You know what I'm saying? Which is why in my YouTube video that I put out, I did say, like, and trust me, like, the mainstream industry is no safe haven. I know that as well. Like, where you have people, you are going to have a lot of these same things that you saw in the Christian industry. The difference is, number one, I'm aware of that. I know that. And I am carefully making my way through this industry. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's powerful that, as I think specifically for you, because of how you got into it, it was such a clear, definitive prayer that you asked. And God was so clear and like, Alex, I'm the one who put you here. It was just so clear in those moments that God, like, if you're the one who brought me here, then you gonna have to figure this out here because I'm not about to, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's that fear that causes a lot of Christians to get really nervous when some Christians decide they want to go into the mainstream, because we have seen people who started off this way going into the mainstream and they just completely and God knows their story. God knows why that happened. It's not for us to we don't really know. But because of that, there can be this fear like, oh my gosh, we're about to lose another one. But what I'll say is this, at the end of the day, just because some people go all the way left into that world and they lose themselves doesn't mean everybody's going to. Does it mean that anyone who thinks about crossing over should think very carefully? Yes.
Yeah.
You should be very wise.
Yeah.
Yes. You should make sure you have some key people in your life.
Yeah.
Yes, you should. But does that mean you automatically should not do it? No, because some people are meant to be in that space, right?
Yeah.
And I think a beautiful example that you even see in the Bible is Daniel and the 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, they were captured from Israel, and God told Daniel, he put him in a leadership position, and he says, I actually want you to work for the prosperity of the land. And he was working for a pagan king.
Yeah.
And his job was to try to see that Babylon succeeds as a nation. Go figure that one out.
Yeah.
Go figure, he's supposed, this is Daniel.
Yeah.
He's a Jew. He's worshiping Yahweh, but he's in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And your job is to try to seek the prosperity of the Babylonian nation. Same thing with the 3 Hebrew boys. Same thing with Joseph. He's second in command to Pharaoh.
Yeah.
His job is not spiritual. His job is to make this land that hates Yahweh prosper.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So and in that same environment, you would have the priests who work in their priests, and their job is just the religious activity. So my point is that even when you go back to the source text that all Christians think, we all say we believe them. Okay, cool. Let's actually look in the Bible. This is not new.
Yeah.
This is not new in the Bible. There are people who have been called to mainstream occupations in places of power, and they're maybe not Christians, people of faith, people in the community, and there are people within that community who are in the religious settings. It's always existed.
Yeah.
The question is, are you being faithful to where
you were called? Yeah.
And if you know you're supposed to be in the Christian industry, don't get shiny object syndrome where you think I can go make more money. I guarantee you, if you're going into mainstream because you're thinking you can make more money, you're more than likely going to lose yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're more than
if anything, if you know how to market yourself, you're going to make more money in the Christian.
Bro, talk that.
Bro, I'm telling you, bro.
Talk that.
There's that industry, there's so
much money.
That's exactly why you said there are people up in high positions that understand that. They see it. Can you imagine being a person in those high positions and offering all these people 360 deals, including the church tours? Bro.
There's so much money, which is why some people who think that people like yourself and myself are going for money. I'm like, bro, you're actually ignorant. You actually don't know how much money and how easy it is to make money.
Yeah.
But so this is not a money pursuit.
Exactly.
Right? It's a mission pursuit.
Yes.
Right? It's a calling pursuit.
Yeah.
And so for the maybe Christian person who has a faith and is thinking about going to the mainstream, if you're thinking about it through the lens of what you think you can gain, I'm telling you, you're more than likely going to lose yourself. If you're considering that, it shouldn't be for that purpose or anything beyond where you feel like you're truly called.
Amen to that, bro.
Where you can excel in. You know what I'm saying? And it came down to that for you.
Yeah.
And because that was your motivation when those challenges came, and I'm sure there were even more that you could tell.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're like, you stood because it was never about pleasing man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Christian or secular.
Yeah.
God put me here, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can change my life like that. Yeah, it'd be nice to have $1 million, but that was never the aim.
Amen. Exactly. And that's why when you get into that position, it's a beautiful place to be in, bro. Because exactly what you said, you're not moved anymore. Whether by criticism, whether from love or acclamation, it doesn't move you anymore. It's very balanced. You know what I mean? I go my life very balanced. Oh, you had a #1 hit on the radio. Whoa, we gotta celebrate. Okay, cool. You know? Yeah. Oh no, your song flopped. Okay, cool. Because at that point, your identity is in Christ completely, in a healthy relationship with Christ where this is all that matters.
Exactly.
What does he think of me? Okay, then I'm good.
Exactly. Not completely sidebar. This was also in my video as well. This is another reason why for me, I had to open up other ways of making money as well. Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't want to be beholden to anybody's standard with regard to the type of music I make. Christian or mainstream. I don't want to go out there and pimp pimp out the Christian message because I have to sell these CDs or these shirts
Yeesh.
or book all these shows.
Yeah.
If I'm preaching the gospel that I believe has the power to change lives, then I want to be able to do it out of a pure place.
Wow.
And for me, like, maybe there are people out there who can do that and still have a financial motive, and they've somehow figured out a way.
Figured it out. Yeah.
I'm like, good for you. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm,
which is yeah.
if I know I have to pay my bills,
Mm-hmm.
right, and I have to preach this message, I cannot help but think about the bills I have to pay.
Of course.
And my bottom line
Woof.
while I'm preaching that message,
Bro.
And I don't think that should be the case,
Bro, that's a whole other conversation we
You know
can
what I'm
have, because
saying?
I'm telling you, that's always been one of my pet peeves, and not even pet peeves. Let's put it this way. Let me switch it. One of the things I've always said, for a healthy ministry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a pastor, whether you're evangelist, whether you are a Christian singer, anything like that, I feel it is key to have other sources of income.
Yeah.
Because now you are no longer driven by the offerings
Mm-hmm.
or by, the people that have brought you to their church, or the people, that have paid the way for you to get there. Because whether you like it or not, bro,
Right.
you are a prophet.
You are-
and then all of a sudden you get asked to come to a church. Your prophecies are going to go towards the people that brought you to the church.
Yeah.
Because you got to get paid.
You got to get paid.
And that's the reality of the situation, because business is business.
Is like
There is no distinction.
Exactly.
Get what I'm saying? So that's why I'm a firm believer, exactly like you.
Yeah.
Have other sources of income so you don't have to, and then that will mean that you are in the purest form of ministry.
Exactly. That was so key for me. I'm like, I don't want to have to like be thinking I'm going to say this exact way because I know I can actually tie the gospel message into my business, because guess what? I do need to make money. And I just started to feel like, man, this is just not a pure way to preach this message. And so number one, I had to find other ways of being financially stable, so that when I am preaching that message, there's no financial motive there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that also works for the mainstream side, my bro, because it's like, bro, like, I'm not that hard for money. Sure, it would be nice to sign $1 million advance right off the bat right now.
Yeah.
But I'm in a position to say no if that means I'm going to have to compromise my faith. Why? Because I'm not desperate for money. Yep. Number one, I'm driven by mission. Number two, thank you very much, but I'm making money in other ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it was very important that in order to maintain that kind of the ability to be moved by conviction and to move by mission, this was just another reason where I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that I'm straight financially, so that however I'm moving in the Christian world, I'm not telling the message, and in the mainstream world, I'm not compromising myself for the bag, because the bag is already taken care of. You feel me? But that's like a whole other conversation.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
My bro. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much for coming, man. It was amazing. I love having these conversations with like-minded people.
Yeah.
People pushing the faith forward, pushing the agenda forward. Like I said, Splinter Cells, that's what we are.
Splinter Cells, baby.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Metal Gear Solid,
Thank you for having me, man. Like you were doing this even before I was. And I think that's so hilarious that the first time you see me, you thought, this guy could do so much outside of here, but you never said anything. And in the Lord's providence, because you had I don't know, like, you had your own experience. I don't know if that was before or after that incident, but I just think it's so funny that you were there, you saw it, and it's just interesting to see how God is working everything. Yeah. And then years later, I go through my own situation, and now we're having this conversation. Like, bro, remember that time? Man. I knew it from jump.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
And you're doing it. You know what I mean? You're
like
doing it,
grace.
bro. From winning the
the searchlight situation.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
And like just overall, your music, your branding, everything. I see it, and I'm like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And I love seeing it, bro. I love seeing it, man.
Trenches.
And I'm glad that the Holy Spirit still talks to me, because he talked to me when I saw you, bro.
Hey, man, day by day.
Yeah,
if I can just like leave one little thing one thing to take away for any maybe Christian who's out here, or even not Christian, like, just build your community. I think there has never been a better time to actually have a real chance at success without being dependent on any institution, Christian or mainstream. There's been no better time than now.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So if you feel as though like you want to be Dr. Christian Artist, Mr. Christian Artist, no shot at you. Build your community.
Yeah.
Do your thing. Put out your content. Make your music.
Yeah.
If you feel as though like, yo, I want to make mainstream music, but I want it to be influenced by my faith, and I'm not trying to go all the way left, that's fine. Drop the labels. Drop all the Christian just drop the label and just make that music and build your community. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
And at the end of the day, you build your community, you build your own independence, you are going to be in that position where nobody can hold you to anything.
And it's the purest form.
It's the purest form. People are going to, like, you're going to actually have the ability. Number one, you build that audience, you build that community. All of these other big heads are going to come to you. And you're actually going to have leverage to say, this is what I want. This is what I will not tolerate.
Take it or leave it.
And you know what they'll say? They'll say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Why?
When can you start?
You know what I'm saying? Well, like,
Yeah.
how can we help you? Because you've already done the work. And I think what you and I are doing is so much more possible now.
Oh, yeah,
Because
bro.
like, you didn't have these tools when you got into it. You know what I'm saying?
I needed the machine behind me back then. Get what I'm saying? I needed it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like, you don't need that. Exactly what you said. You don't need that machine anymore.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stay true, stay pure, stay independent.
Man, love it, bro. Shopé,
Appreciate you.
Thank you for being on,
me,
man. And man, I'm gonna do shameless plugs for you because you don't have to. You know what I mean? But yo, check out his music. Check out his socials. Check out his clothing line. It's fire. Yeah. And just check him out everywhere, man. I'm telling you, join the team because this guy's gonna be like out of here stratosphere, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
So love you guys. Talk to you soon, man.
Love.